Kevin Hamilton. I'm a registered respiratory therapist and the CEO of Central California Asthma Collaborative. We're a local nonprofit that works in the 8 counties of San Joaquin Valley. Our goal is to provide education and direct services, build regional capacity, and advocate for sensible policies that improve health for the residents of the San Joaquin Valley. We'll talk a little bit about AB 617 today. AB 617 is a bill that was passed last summer, in the summer of 2017. And what made this bill different than so many others is that it actually will affect the lives of people in local communities in the San Joaquin Valley in a positive way. Air pollution generally is run by a large agency called the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District and the California Air Resources Board. One is responsible for what's called mobile sources, things that drive. The other one is stationary, things like pumps in fields, big buildings and smokestacks and things like that, that don't move, that are in the same place all the time. So in the past, the way we measured how much pollution there was we looked at this big area of the San Joaquin Valley and we thought about, well, if I put all these monitors here and there, I can find out what the air pollution is across the whole area, but I won't know what it's like in, say, the town of Crow's Landing or in Stockton. I can't tell you that. I can only tell you that generally everywhere it's here. So what 617 does is say, well, we want to know what it's like in South Stockton. We want to know what it's like in Little Manila. We want to know what it's like in Modesto. We want to know what it's like in Lodi. So we want to know this, but we don't have the ability to learn that at this point with our technology. 617 is giving us that technology. It says, okay, well, let's put those monitors in those communities and let's see what the pollution really looks like in the ground where people are living and working every day. And that kind of in a nutshell, there's a lot of other pieces, but that's the big sort of vision of 617 is we finally learn, well, if the monitor that measures pollution is 50 miles from me, how do I know what I'm breathing here at my house? I think everybody knows that a lot of the pollution that they breathe is created close to them. If there's a big truck center, a big factory or something like that, or a big distribution center, 2 blocks from your house, and you see trucks go by every day, you know that's causing a problem for you, but it may not be causing a problem 20 miles away. So, and that's what 617 is all about, is finding that out. And once we find out, actually creating a plan to reduce that pollution in the neighborhoods.
And so that kind of goes into the second question, and you kind of summed it up. Why is it important? Why is it important for us to know why it's in our air?
So, this is important. People often ask the question, why is this important? Well, it's important because air pollution has a significant impact on our health. It's not the only thing in our environment that affects our health. Obviously, if we don't have healthy food to eat, if we don't have enough money to pay our bills, if we live in a house that's old and falling apart, all these things can affect our health. But air pollution is one of those things that's everywhere. So it affects everybody, but some people more than others because they're closer to where it's being created. So the idea here is that if you've got asthma problems, if you've got high blood pressure, if you've got other chronic health conditions and you're exposed to a lot of air pollution, it's going to make them worse. So, and in some cases, it can even cause them. It's going to make you more likely to get an infection when they come around, like the flu or pneumonia. So if we remove this air pollution, we can at least improve your health. And that's going to allow you to be more free in your life to work more, not miss as much school, to enjoy your life a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, there's that correlation of if you're not healthy, you're not going to be a productive member of society. And if you're going to have these issues that are going to kind of impede you from being, living a quality life. And so I think it's important to kind of talk about how it connects to environmental justice, because I know that it's one of the biggest components in the law. And it's going to affect those areas of environmental justice, not just the communities, but in general, how they're perceived, how they're funded. So can you talk a little bit about the environmental justice component?
Absolutely. So Environmental justice says that all people, regardless of their income, their language, their cultural background, whether or not they have residency, doesn't matter, they live in this country, they all have a right to have a voice, to be heard, and treated equally. That's a tenet of American society. It's part of our democracy's founding. And so, but this hasn't happened. Unfortunately, over time, we have a lot of folks who've been excluded, who've been not treated fairly, who are not involved in the conversation or even asked how they feel about having these pollution sources put in their communities.
Yeah.
And so they don't have a voice. So environmental justice is about bringing that voice and understanding that a lot of this pollution is happening in those communities that are most vulnerable, least likely to be able to defend themselves. So here is this opportunity for these communities to be put first for once. Yeah. Instead of going second or third or not in line at all, these communities are first. Communities of color, low-income communities, where folks don't maybe have the same education as other people, where folks don't have access to the same kind of employment as other people, and they certainly don't have access to people that make decisions about where and when money is spent to improve their lives. So here's an opportunity to do that. So 617 put that community that is always at the end of the line to the front of the line, is the way I think about it.
And can you just talk a little bit about how these communities were identified based on AB 617?
So we talk about disadvantaged communities a lot. We talk about low income and disadvantaged communities. This is a really difficult problem. So the state created a mapping tool called Cuál EnviroScreen. And it's not perfect. It doesn't catch everything, but it does bring together health and economy, like wages. So if wages in a community are very low, income is very low, then that puts them up, gives them a higher score in this mapping tool. If they have a lot of health problems, it gives them a higher score. And most importantly, if they have a lot of pollution in their lives, whether it's water pollution or air pollution, there's housing indicators in there. If there's substandard housing, if it's old and beat up and you don't have access to a decent home, that's all in there. And so the communities that have really what I think of as the most problems happening to them all at the same time, go to the top of the list. They have the highest score. And so they're going to, again, be first in line to get some help here. Everybody will get some help. It's not like anybody's left out, but we just change the order that the help comes in. And now the people who need it the most are going to get it first.
No, definitely, definitely. And I think it's also important to note that these disadvantaged communities really do need the help. I mean, they've been kind of, like you mentioned, forgotten for so many years. And they do have a lot of the health problems that you do see. And so I think it's important. How would you, I mean, you've already mentioned how it would affect disadvantaged communities, but in a positive way. What benefits do you think would bring, to these communities as far
other than better health? And I think you characterized it well earlier when you said, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So you can't. There's an argument going on statewide about whether these rules are going to affect people's ability to make a lot of money, mainly people who own these businesses that are going to have to reduce the amount of pollution that they're putting in the air as part of their business. So they're complaining that then people won't have good jobs because they won't, they're going to lose money, and that's just not true. The reality is, if you don't have your health, you won't have a good job. Exactly. Anybody, I don't care how much money you have, it won't matter if your health goes down. It doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how poor you are. Health is the great equalizer. So the idea here is these communities have been treated as places to recruit workers from and then send them back to. That's how that goes. They never worried about the place where those people come from. That's their problem. What I need is you to come here and work for me and then go back home, and then you deal with whatever you got to deal with home. I don't have to deal with that. even though the work that I'm doing, the business that I run, is actually affecting the health of your whole family, not just you. So this kind of changes that paradigm, that sort of standard way of doing things, and says, you know, that's not going to happen anymore. We recognize that you having good health is critical to you being successful in life. If you want to get a good job, if you want to advance yourself, you want to build your own business, or you want to go to school and get a degree and you know, and get this great job doing something else, whether it's here or someplace else, the environment around you shouldn't affect your health. And in fact, your community should begin to look just like everybody else's community in whatever way you'd like it to be. Nice homes, complete streets, neighborhoods that are free of stress, with low crime rates, just like other people's, and being healthy places to live in that you want to live in, that you want to stay in, not places that you're always struggling to get out of. So hopefully this is one of the pieces that will begin to change that.
And can you talk about how it will positively impact? I know that, you know, our health systems, especially during the summertime, we have, you know, high rates of emergency room visits. And can you talk about how that'll affect, you know, these communities as well? I mean, it's going to have these huge benefits where you're not going to hopefully see as many residents or people suffering from asthma and going into the emergency room, and just the benefits there.
So one of the pollution sources is what's called PM 2.5, so tiny small particles of pollution. Another one that's related to that's called black carbon, which is part of the whole climate discussion. So both of those come from diesel exhaust, so primarily, and from big smokestacks on various kinds of industries. So with those being reduced, what we expect to see is a decline in the number of people going to emergency rooms for things like asthma, other lung diseases, heart attack, those kinds of things. So if we see that decrease, then people who really need the ER for other things like car accidents, things like that, that's what the ER was really built for. And the other people can now just go to their doctor for primary care visits to get their vaccinations and physicals and the things that you need to take care of to make sure your health is in good shape, and take care of yourself. But we really want to get people out of this idea that the only reason they go to the doctor is because they have an emergency in their life. The only way to change that is to change the things causing those emergencies. And this air pollution is one of them. The biggest hit in the emergency room is actually in the wintertime in the valley during the PM season, when we have not only the exhaust from the trucks and other vehicles, but we have the dairy industry, and then we have all these chimneys that people still insist on burning fires in. Yeah. So we have, you know, a sort of combination problem. 617 gives us the tools we need to deal with all of those. So I really look forward to it, and I think that we will see a reduction in the number of those visits. Now, this isn't going to happen immediately. This is going to take, quite honestly, 5 to 10 years. And I think people are frustrated right now and they want to see something happen now. So the best thing we can do now is make sure we get these community monitoring projects into these communities as quickly as possible, the right way, and begin to use that information to create change. And
so moving on to like current updates on the law, what has happened since it's been implemented?
So since it's been implemented, AB 1550 has been passed. That the original investment of the money from this was what we used to call 25-10. So 25% of it had to go into disadvantaged communities, 10% had to benefit disadvantaged communities. That number is now moved to 50 and 5. So half the money has to go into disadvantaged community and 5% benefit them. That's a big difference when you're talking hundreds of millions, potentially several $billion when this is all over. So the investment again in those communities just jumped again up to the head of the line. They don't have a choice. They have to invest this money in those communities. And the most important thing we can do as community-based organizations, yours and mine and everybody else, is find out from the community where they want this money to go, what do they want their community to look like, and what what's the plan to make that happen? And then hold the people who are making those plans accountable to carry them out. So again, that's why it's going to take a while.
And what other areas is this funding going to go to? Not just communities, I know, but can you talk a little bit about other areas?
Well, the 617 funding itself is pretty much all going to both do the community monitoring. There's some other things it's going to do that are a little more technical. One of the things the Air Resources Board and air districts do is tell companies what technology they have to use to reduce pollution. And they give them some money to buy that technology so that they can make that change without going out of business. They always complain, what's going to put us out of business? Yeah, well, we're going to give you a couple of $1 million to help that not happen. They still complain anyway because they just don't want to do it. So, but there's a lot of money for that. So a lot of local businesses can benefit from this by agreeing to make these changes and then applying for this funding. And the technology they'll have to use will be the same throughout the state. Right now, that technology is different in different places, and it's decided on locally, well, what's going to be best for this same business. Let's say a glass factory or a distribution center, warehouse. Now the state's going to say, no, this is what you need to use. And this is the best technology to do that. They even have a name for it, best available control technology. That's fine. It's just the best thing that's out there that you can possibly put in place that's going to do this. And there's money to help them do this. And with these plans, once we figure out where the pollution is and how to reduce it, there's incentive money to actually help people, businesses, again, who are polluting in whatever way they are polluting, reduce that. There's also money for people locally to get hybrid vehicles or to get an electric vehicle, whether it's used or new. And in fact, right now, the state is working on a one-stop shop plan to create a single application that you could access on your phone, and you could actually apply for this money and get set up ahead of time to go down to a car lot and get a car that is less polluting than the one now. So by hopefully this time next year, maybe 18 months from now, we'll actually have that. So this money, again, is paying for all of those opportunities, so that if you live in a disadvantaged community right now, and there's a little tool online you can actually use to do this that the Air District has, put in your zip code and your income. Yeah. It'll tell you you can get up to $14,000 toward a new electric vehicle. And there are actually new electric vehicles out there that only cost around $15,000, $16,000. So yeah, exactly. You could walk off the car lot with a car and a $3,000 loan, brand new car. So, you know, the key is to getting the word out about this, right? Exactly. Making sure these programs continue to get funding. The other side of it is for trucks, for instance. There's a lot of money here to help truckers who have old trucks, especially small trucking companies with 1, 2, 3 trucks, replace those trucks or replace the engines in those trucks. So again, that money's there. We need to make sure that the folks who need that money get access to it and make those changes.
And so just to wrap up a little bit, what are the next steps and how can community residents participate in the implementation of the law? I know that you mentioned for residents to get involved to figure out how to spend that money, but what are some like concrete ways that residents can get involved?
Well, my favorite is talking to your local elected leaders. Make sure they know about this and ask them what they're doing about it. I mean, call them on the phone, say, I heard there's a lot of money out there to clean up the air in, let's just say, South Stockton. Out here by the airport, really want you to get on that and get that money. And, you know, by the way, I'm going to call you back in a couple of months, see how you're doing. And it's as easy as that. I mean, residents often ask me, well, I don't know what to say. Say that I want clean air. Say that I heard that there's some money out there to do that. Are we doing that? I need to know that you're doing that. And tell me how. And maybe you can ask them to mail you something. You know, and then check back with a community-based organization that you trust or somebody you trust who knows what's going on as well to see, is this real? Is this true? And, you know, keep that kind of thing going. Just that sort of neighborhood connection, right? Where you talk to your your aunt or your grandma or your friend or your sister or whoever you're talking to, and you just talk about this. So it's really important just to talk about this like you would anything else, and get the word out there and pass it along. You know, and this idea of being able to get money for a car, it's a great thing. They've got a lot of money sitting there that's not being spent. I mean, that's crazy, right? You got all this money you could get. All you have to do is be poor, and you know, you could access this money. They're even coming up now. They're testing a new fund, a new underwriting, it's called, but the state would actually help people get loans who don't have credit. So, I mean, by next year, that's going to be out there as well on this tool. I'm excited. I think there's incredible opportunities here coming for just individuals in these communities and families.
And I always tell, and I always tell residents to go to these meetings, you know, go to your local air district meeting, even if it's a little bit overwhelming at first and you feel like I don't really understand, it's a little too technical. Just go so that they know that you're present, that you're there, that you have needs too from your community, and keep that on the radar for them so that they know.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so they know that, yes, you're representing a community that we need to pay attention to, that we obviously need to look at for additional funding and, you know, funding opportunities. So I think that's always important for them to get involved in the process. Go ahead.
I think I do that. I agree with you. If they can go to a local air district meeting, that's outstanding. Unfortunately, the agencies don't make themselves very accessible. So for folks who live in, say, San Joaquin County, the closest air district office is in Modesto. So, like I say, sometimes the phone is the best way people can participate with their local elected leaders, because they just have transportation barriers, or they have to work every day. And of course, they always hold these meetings during the daytime in the middle of the week. So, but if they can get out to an air district meeting or work with a local organization like yours that can help them get to a meeting and have a voice there, that's the best thing ever. And the Air Resources Board meets the third Thursday of every month, mostly in Sacramento. So again, in the North Counties, maybe people are a little closer there. They need to see people in the room who are just real people who are concerned about not breathing clean air. And again, you don't know what to say, step up and say, I need you to clean my air. I need to breathe clean air. My kids need to breathe clean air. Okay, I don't know how to do it, but you need to do it, and I'm tired of waiting. Do it now. Really, I mean, it's that simple, right? I mean, you know, leave it to people like us who have to overthink it all the time.
I know. So what's on the horizon? Are there going to be more workshops so that community residents can get involved?
The law requires that they hold a large number of public workshops, the Air District and the Air Resources Board. We are waiting to see. We have asked the local Air District a number of times now what the plan is for community meetings. They tell me it's coming. I was told at the last Carl Moyer meeting in Merced last week on Thursday that by the end of this month, so you know, we're going to hold them to that. The Air Resources Board is holding a meeting here in Fresno on the 29th of March. And so you have information about that you can share to folks, I'm sure.
Yes.
So you probably want to share that out. It will be webcast. So you know, hopefully that works for people. And I believe they get on through the phone as well. At least we're always pushing them to make sure they do that, right? I mean, that's an important thing. If they can get down here, we're working on arranging childcare and some food for folks. So, you know, we have suggested that local community-based organizations, I know that in Merced, they're putting this together with the local BHC and a couple of other folks, a meeting room where they can get together and watch it together and maybe participate through the webcast that way. So that's, you know, something else you can think about doing. It's kind of short notice at this point since it's the 22nd, but excuse me. So yeah, any way you can get in, but as more meetings across the summer, there'll be a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
One way or another. So you know, stay tuned.
And I think this is important too, because this is the first time that something like this has happened in the state of California, and not in every other state. This is the first time something like this
Anywhere.
anywhere
In the world.
in the world. So I think it's important, because I think it's, you know, everyone's watching to see how this is going to play out, and I think it's going to be great. It's a great opportunity for California to lead the way. Anything on that you want to share? Because I think it's exciting. It's
Well,
really,
this is a step, you know, in the right direction, so to speak. We're starting down a path that actually brings and that changes communities' lives in a positive way for the first time, and not just one community, but transformational for environmental justice communities across California. So low-income and disadvantaged communities across the state. That's a big job. So it's going to take time. That's why we want to start and do it right. Some of us are working to make sure that happens, so that the information we gather can actually be used to create this change. And then it's just going to be a big push year after year. We'll start out with a smaller group of communities to test things. We'll grow it the next year to double that or triple that, and just keep doing that until eventually we get everybody, right? And then soon, you know, maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now, anybody will be able to pick up their phone and look at it and see, well, what's the air pollution in my community today? By the way, where's that smoke coming from? They need to fix that. Put in, a note, and it gets fixed. So that'd be the kind of thing that we'd like to see happen. Not only that, out of this is going to come new jobs. Exactly. So this technology creates jobs in and of itself. And there's a huge component in 617 that talks about job development and job training. And the state's what's called greenhouse gas scoping plan, that's driving how they address climate over the years, has that written into all of these grants, not just for this, but for all the agency projects, with money that's coming from that, from your taxes and mine, and fees that we're paying on other things. And so, we need to keep holding them accountable and make sure that all that happens. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. Holding them accountable. So any last words, Kevin? I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
But within a short period of time, and I appreciate that. Any last words that you'd like to leave us with?
I quite honestly can't think of anything right now. I think we've kind of set it out now at this point. I just am looking forward to the future. I think there's real opportunities here, and I'm excited to be part of it. It's cool.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and we will definitely look towards the summer. You said there's going to be a little bit more workshops coming up, and
we'll get them all posted as we learn about them, even if we're not doing them. We're going to post them. So look at the CVAC listserv, check out CCAC's Facebook page. We post everything there as well. I like to say, follow us on Twitter.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate your time and expertise and your background, and we look forward to hearing more.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.